just help one person, then my time has been worth it. And I'm like, hey, I ain't coming all the way to Dallas for one person. We're fixing to help them all, okay? So we're gonna have a great time. This is gonna be very different. I don't know what you expect, but this won't be it, okay? I don't know what you know about me. For a long time, I never knew what to say that I did. You know, because people would ask, they say, what do you do for a living? Like on an airplane or something? And I never wanted to say, well, I'm an author. Because I always thought, boy, that sounds like you think you're a big deal. And I never wanted to say, well, I'm a speaker, because speakers wear suits and have points. And so it took me a while to figure out exactly what I am or what my value is for people. And here's what it is. I'm a noticer. I may be the first professional noticer that you ever met. But that's what I do. See, when God was passing out talents, I didn't get the cool ones. I can't run fast, I can't sing great, but I notice little things that make a difference in people's lives. That's what I do. People say, so this is what, like you created a career around this. No, really it's just kind of what I was, or what I am. It's why my parents thought I was an odd little child, I guess, because I would see the same things everybody saw, and I would hear what everybody heard. It would just mean something different to me. A little kid, my mother would say, don't play with those arrows, they'll poke your eye out, or don't play with that stick, it'll poke your eye out. I'm 6 years old, and I'm thinking, you can't poke your eye out with a stick. You can poke it in. Poke it out, you gotta run it up through your nose, up like that, don't you?
You dressed up.
And I was kind of a smart aleck, but I grew up in Alabama, so you learn in Alabama, you learn at an early age. You can think it, but you don't say it out loud, because we still believe in spankings in Alabama. So you learn, and I remember my dad getting on to me one time saying, when Abraham Lincoln was your age, Abraham Lincoln had a job. And when Abraham Lincoln was your age, Abraham Lincoln walked 12 miles through the snow to get to school. And I didn't say it out loud, but I remember thinking, when Abraham Lincoln was your age, he was president, right? But these odd thoughts just kind of keep coming and going to me, and I just see parallel lines. It's why I've ended up working with a lot of different things. I don't have any particular expertise except for human behavior, I think. I work with special operations, have for a number of years. I work with our intelligence community. I work with a lot of companies, a lot of teams. If you're interested in football, my boys think this is cool. I actually have my hands in the last 9 college football national championships in a row. And the funny thing is, I'll get off the phone with Urban Meyer or Nick Saban, and my wife will say, do they know that you only played football in the 6th grade? Oh, yeah, they do. And it's a funny thing that when you're working with people like you, who are like the best in an industry, it's tough to take, It's tough to take somebody who is where you are and help them double or triple individually throughout the group. It's tough to take a team and help them massively increase their results when they have already won a couple or 3 national championships. And the reason it's hard is not because there is no margin. That's not the hard part. The hard part is because they don't believe there is a margin. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I mean, when somebody, when you go, if you're in Nick Saban's office, he is very aware that not many people know more than he knows about football. I mean, because he has proof to that effect. And so, as hard as he works and as much as he learns, and as much as he goes after to learn, the fact in his mind and everybody else's around him is that nobody knows more than he does. And so, how could you possibly how could you possibly have a ton of margin? Because it's never been proven to the world that it even exists. You know, Nick may be, they're saying he may be the best that ever coached college football. And so how would you help something? And so when I look at a group of people like you, I realize that you're in the same position as he is, or as a president. You're in a situation where with the vehicle that you have, with the systems that you have in place, with the momentum you have, the only thing you really, really lack is an objective view of reality. See, there is a reality that is far beyond what you see. Now, I find these realities on the edges. I find them with perspective, which perspective is huge. Perspective is the only thing that can totally change results without changing a single fact. When I was 19 years old, my parents died. My mom died of cancer. My dad was killed in a car accident. So it was a crazy time in my life. But I've always had the ability to take a bad situation and make it worse. And I did. I made some bad moves and ended up literally homeless before that was even a word. 35 years ago, nobody was talking about homeless people. That wasn't a term anybody used. But I was sleeping under a pier on the Gulf Coast, in and out of people's garages, which is not safe or smart. We still live there, by the way. In the town. We live in the town. We live indoors now, but we live in the town. We live in Orange Beach, Alabama. It's the same place. It's a little town, 4,000 people. But I still drive by the pier I slept under, several times a day. It's funny to me, my wife is real nervous because she's afraid I'm going to, when we eat out locally or something, she's afraid I'm going to blow my cover to the wrong people. Because there's a lot of people in town that they know who I am, but they don't connect me with the kid who used to bathe in the Holiday Inn swimming pool. Right? They knew them both, but they don't realize that's the same person. And so it's funny, because Polly's always afraid, people would come up to me in a restaurant and say, ooh, I read your books. And some of them I want to say, really? I slept in your garage. But it was a crazy time, and I met this old guy late one night. His name was Jones. We didn't call him Mr. Jones. We just called him Jones. We didn't know where he was from. We didn't know where he went when he left. Didn't know where he stayed when he was there. Didn't know what he carried around in that old suitcase. We didn't know how old he was. He was 80 or 180. We didn't really know. But he was the first guy ever to tell me the truth about myself. And it's amazing. The two things that I still think about a lot that he told me. One, we talked about with some of the leaders last night, was you can't believe everything you think. Now, he told me that because when I was 23, I don't know what you're like when you're 23, and I'm so glad to be here. I'm honored to be here. But I'm 58. Now, wait a minute. I'm 58 years old. And I really wish, and I promise I'm going to do you some good today, but I wish you had me when I was 23. Because, when I was 23, I don't know what you were like, but I knew everything. I'm pretty decent today, but when I was 23, I knew everything. I mean, I'm shocked somebody from Orange Beach didn't call NASA back then and say, do you know that we have a kid living on the beach and he knows everything? I would interrupt this old man. I'd say, I said, well, let me tell you what I'm thinking. And he'd talk a little bit, and I said, okay, but here's something you need to think about. And he'd talk, and I'd say, okay, but I was thinking. And he told me one day, he said, you need to be careful with that. That thinking thing's going to get you in trouble. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, a lot of people live their entire lives and never figure out you can't always believe everything you think. Took me a long time to unpack that, and we will for you here in just a minute. But the other thing he talked to me about was perspective. And he would talk about perspective so much that years later I kept thinking about it and delving into it and figuring on it. And it is one of the most powerful things that you can ever understand. Perspective. Perspective is more important than answers. Sometimes in the middle of a crisis, people feel desperate for an answer, and because they don't really understand the normalcy of crisis. They think that crisis means something is terribly wrong in their lives, and we got to fix it now. Look, we're always, all of us, we're always in a crisis, coming out of a crisis, or headed for a crisis. That's part of being with us on this planet. It's a normal human condition. And to panic because of crisis just gets you farther away from where you really need to be. Because in a crisis, a lot of times people, they feel like they got to have an answer right now. And they'll grab an answer and they'll shove it in, this round answer in a square hole, and they'll get something, but it won't be what we would call the best. Right? And so they're a little off target. And of course, they get in the habit of that throughout their lives. And then throughout their lives, they get that, they keep shoving that round answer into that square hole in crisis, and they get a little farther and farther away from what we call the best. See, the deal is that in the middle of a crisis, sometimes an answer does not yet exist. The best answer, the best can be a matter of timing. And sometimes, right then, the answer doesn't exist. And that is where perspective is so critical, because perspective brings calm. Calm leads to clear thinking. Clear thinking yields ideas. And from ideas, we get answers in the proper time, proper context. See, perspective is the only thing, it says for it, it's the only thing that can totally change the results without changing a single fact. Think about this. The glass half empty, glass half full thing. Okay, here's what I mean by it can totally change the results without changing any of the facts. We know, we just know, just from our experience watching and listening, and that people who are that kind of glass half empty thing, we know that because they see that kind of negative connotation, they see that glass half empty, we know that they are less likely to be promoted, they're less likely to be chosen, they get fewer opportunities, people are less likely to join them on a quest. And because of that, you can easily see the trajectory of a life who doesn't get hired as often, doesn't get opportunities as often, doesn't get promoted, doesn't get joined. You can see the trajectory of that life. Now, on the other side, we all know people who are glass half full people, and these people just want to be around them. I mean, these are the kind of people that we look to join. Glass half full people, we want to be a part of whatever they're doing. They're the people that companies want as leaders. We're looking for a glass half full person. In traditional business, these are the people who get promoted. These are glass half full people. If your daughter or your son marries a glass half full person, but if they marry a glass half empty person, oh God, Thanksgiving's for the rest of our lives, And so we know, because glass half full people get more opportunities. More people want to join them. More people want to do whatever they say we're going to do. We can see the trajectory of their life, right? All right, here's the curious part. This glass, it is what it is. The glass is what it is. The facts have remained the same about the glass. So here's the key. People say that perspective is how somebody sees something. Well, that's true. It's just not the truth. Because the truth is, it's how somebody sees something, but it's more than that. It's how they choose to see it. See, you can choose to see it however you want to see it. You can choose your perspective. I've worked with Chick-fil-A for a number of years, and when you look at what the Cathy family has done and look at the decisions they make, it's curious watching over a broad spectrum of what perspectives in the fast food industry will bring about. The numbers that are available for everybody are that the average fast food franchise in America, we take them all. Take them all. Checkers, Burger King, everything, Arby's, everything. The average fast food franchise in America grosses $800,000 a year. They gross that. That's what the average does. Now that includes the high and the low, obviously. Okay. One of the other statistics that is available that everybody gets is that Sunday is by far the biggest money day of the week. By far. There are a lot of reasons for that. Some of the reasons that they say are that there's no specific breakfast, lunch, or dinner time. It's like it goes for hours. And but my point is that data is available for everyone. Okay? And McDonald's looks at that data, and their perspective is that Sunday is the day of the week to staff at the highest numbers, to put as many of their people in there, to get this food moving, these people moving, just turn them through. Their perspective on that data is that Sunday is the best day to staff at the highest levels. Now, Chick-fil-A looks at that data, and it's the same data. And their perspective is, there are things more important than a chicken sandwich. And their perspective, wait, their perspective is that Sunday is a good day to give their people a day with their families, to give their people a day of rest, to give their people a day to worship as they choose, to give their people a day to take a breath. That's their perspective with the numbers, okay? Now, here's what's really curious about it. What's really curious about it is that the average McDonald's franchise last year did a little over $2.5 million apiece in America, okay? And last year, the average Chick-fil-A franchise, not open 24 hours a day, with 52 fewer days in the year, averaged $4 million a franchise. There are things that you can look at And just because everybody says it's so does not mean it is so. As my granddaddy once told me, if 1,000 people look at something and 1,000 people say it's great, but it's not, 1,000 people are wrong. And my granddaddy said they can be sincere in their belief, but all that makes them is sincerely wrong. Perspective is huge. And the other part, when I said all you lack is objective reality, let me tell you the truth. The truth about the margin that you have, right at this very moment, I see it better than you do. And the reason is because of what I had to do in my life. You know, working with the people that I work with and working with the companies that I work with, I do not have the luxury of celebrity, right? I mean, there are some authors or some speakers or, there's athletes. Peyton Manning Peyton Manning, they'll pay him $100,000 to come in and speak, and we all know what he's going to say anyway. And then we get to take pictures with him and go home and tell everybody he was there. Okay? And that's worth $100,000, I guess. Now, me, I'm not even a cheap version of a quarterback, okay? And so nobody really cares if I'm there or if I'm not there, if they have a picture, because they show a picture, you go, look, I got a picture right there. Yeah, great, who's that? It don't really matter, right? And so the only thing that I have to trade on is results. That's the only thing. And so because I'm kind of a nobody, I don't have a gold medal, I don't have a Super Bowl ring, I don't have a television show. I wasn't the hero of some national disaster we all remember and ended up on the cover of Time magazine. I wasn't the CEO of some major company. I'm a husband, I'm a daddy, I'm a business person, I'm a noticer, and my results that I produce, because of that, must be huge. I cannot afford, if I'm taking on somebody as a client, I cannot afford to end the year with only a 22% increase, because I'm nobody, and it's much too easy to ignore any contribution I might have made. So for my career, what we laughingly refer to as my career, I have to have great results. We can't say, oh yeah, we love Andy, and we did increase 22%. Not sure we couldn't have done that without him, but we love him. You're going to renew? Probably not, but we love him. We love him. See, I have to help somebody double or triple for anybody to even notice. But most people don't even think it's possible. They don't have an objective view of their own reality, especially if they're in first place. So I have had to develop, it took me a long time to figure out, how do I avoid this 3 and 4 hours or this several months of this kind of doubtful look at me from coaches or from CEOs? How do I shorten the time on that? How would anybody even think that I have anything to offer? Because I'm kind of amazed too. When I am, working with the military, I wasn't in the military. How would they ever think there might be something, not just something else to learn? How could they possibly think there might be something from me? And here's what I developed. I'm going to do it for you. It'll take 120 seconds. But I want to totally shift your thinking about your own reality in this next 120 seconds. I can give you good news and bad news with one little statement. And here's what it is. You know what you know. See, that's good news because you know a lot. I mean, look at what you know. I mean, look at the people in this arena. I mean, look at the results that are already evident and the results that you have had, the growth that you've had, the reputation, the honor that you have built is to a great degree because of what you know, what your leaders know, what they've passed on to you. You know a lot, and it's obvious to everybody. Now, the bad news is that you only know what you know. Have you ever known something? I mean, you knew it. You knew it, and you could argue it. And you could win the argument every time. And then you found out several months later or a year later, you found out, ooh, that was not exactly correct. Ever done that? Yeah? Yeah, sure. We've all done that. Okay. If ever in your life you have known something and then found out later your information was incomplete, does the possibility exist that something you know now, your information might be incomplete? And you would say, well, Andy, of course something I know might be wrong, or of course something I know, my information might be incomplete. Okay, I agree. But the key is, we don't really know what that is, do we? And we don't know how many subjects it might cover. All I'm saying is, there is a wide world beyond what you know that we call wisdom. There is a wide world of understanding beyond principle that you can gather. Beyond principle? Yes. Because see, there are tons of people who know principles. And there are tons of people who know how a principle works. But until you know why a principle works as it does, you'll never be able to harness the full power of that principle and be able to use it in different situations that don't even appear to have the same relationship to the way other people are using the principle, and able to use it in different contexts. See, a definition of wisdom is a deep understanding of principle. I mean, you and I, we know the principle of gravity. But do we have a deep understanding of it? No. And until you have a deep understanding of it, you could never build a suspension bridge or create an airplane. I mean, Newton identified gravity centuries before anybody ever really had a deep understanding of it. Now here's the curious thing about principle, is that the principle of gravity was working long before the apple ever fell in Newton's head. But once it did, and he was able to understand it, then he started a revolution where wisdom was harnessed for wealth and power. Now today, when we say wealth and power, that has kind of a tough connotation for people. But I mean, really. I mean, in our world, somebody's going to have the wealth, somebody's going to have the power. Don't you want it to be the good people? You want it to be us. And so the idea of the beginning of principle is to understand how deeply we must dig. Because principles don't just work every time. They work whether you know them or not. Right? You got to know the principle of gravity to have it affect your life if you stumble off a cliff. It just will. You've heard ignorance of the law is no excuse. Ignorance of principle is no protection from the consequences of violating that principle just because you don't know it. Now, how does this translate to you? Here's the deal. When you begin to understand principle, and you begin to apply the many ways a certain principle can be applied, and you begin to gain wisdom in a certain area, you become hugely valuable as a human being. I'm going to tell you a secret that will allow you financially to do whatever you want to do. I'm going to tell you a secret that will allow you to build your business to whatever level you wish. I tell people quietly, my friends kind of don't get, what do you do? And what do you even do? And I've had to think about it, and if I had to dial it down, here's what I do. I help companies, teams, families, churches, individuals.